Well, this is a bit different. Hello everybody and welcome back to my show because I've been away for a few weeks. Life just kind of got in the way a little bit and I've moved house as well, and I wanted to give a big thank you to Nathan, Jake and Brett from Greater Gold Coast Removals, who were amazing in helping me move. Not only were they super efficient in getting all these shelves upstairs and stuff, but they actually made the moving process a lot of fun, so thank you very much guys, and yeah, big shout out to you. So on to Justice League. Now look, Justice League is a movie that I have been waiting decades to see. I am a massive DC Comics fan. One of my best friends, Rob, who used to run a comic book shop that I spent a hell of a lot of time in, we used to spend hours discussing our ideas for a Justice League movie and, what it was going to be like, and it's finally here. So this movie was mostly directed by Zack Snyder, but due to a family tragedy, he had to pass the reins on to Joss Whedon, and it continues the story from the previous DC films in which Superman has died, leaving the world kind of without a glimmer of hope, and Batman and Wonder Woman are aware of an alien threat that's coming to us, and so they've got to put a team together of fellow metahumans in order to create a Justice League. And this threat comes in the form of Steppenwolf, an alien being from the planet Apocalypse who is after these three pieces of alien technology called mother boxes that, when put together, they're going to wipe out the planet, erase humanity, and basically turn it into a barren wasteland akin to his homeworld. So Bruce Wayne and Diana, aka Batman and Wonder Woman, have to put this team together and overcome everyone's personal differences in order to create a solid unit in order to beat Steppenwolf. Now going into this film, look, even though I really had high anticipation of it, I was trying not to expect too much. I mean, I've liked the DC movies so far. I haven't really loved them with the exception of Wonder Woman, which kicked so much ass. And the trailers for this, looked like it could go either way, but look, I'm happy to say I dug this movie. I had so much fun watching Justice League. Yeah, sure, it's got its flaws, which I'll address later, but there was so much going for this film to make it a really entertaining film. For starters, look, everyone returning to their roles did such a great job. I mean, Ben Affleck is still my most favorite on-screen Batman of all time. I don't care what you say, but in both the roles of Batman and Bruce Wayne, he did great once again. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, do I even need to say anything? She is so brilliant in that role, and her scenes, like a lot of the action scenes and stuff, were just amazing. Ray Fisher as Cyborg I thought was pretty cool. He, he was kind of stoic, being that he was this human who had been turned into a computer essentially, and yeah, but I thought, there was this level of him trying to come to terms with that, and I thought he did pretty good. Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Who would have thought we would ever get to a time where Aquaman, one of the most ridiculed characters in the DC universe, would actually be so freaking cool? Aside from his size and everything, he just had this cockiness to him, this kind of smug attitude, and, he's a hard-drinking, hard-fighting kind of guy. I loved him. He was great. But the standout for the new characters was Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, aka The Flash. Man, he was not only hilarious, but he was essential in as much as he was the audience. He was that character who was new to the crime-fighting world. He'd never really done anything with his powers before. He was totally naive, and just everything was fascinating him. And yeah, he was so good. He was an absolute joy to watch. And all the supporting cast were great. Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Everyone was great. I've got to mention Billy Crudup as Barry Allen's father, because otherwise my friend Steve's going to get very upset. He's a massive Billy Crudup fan. So if I don't mention some Crudup in this review, I just don't want that. In terms of the action scenes in this film, they were fantastic. There were some really solid cinematic sequences in this that were just really creatively done. Particularly one scene on Themyscira where Steppenwolf comes to claim a mother box from there and the Amazonians have to get it away from him. I loved that scene. It was so good. And a lot of other scenes like Wonder Woman's introduction, yeah, there were so many moments that this movie was just full full of great moments. Gotta hand it to Danny Elfman's score in this. It was so good. It just really brought the mood out, and there were some great cues as well, some nods to the 1989 Tim Burton Batman theme, and also John Williams' Superman theme. Yeah, it was a really great score. And not only that, look, you know, it's gonna be one of the negatives that I address, where once again we've got a villain that just wasn't quite there, but at the same time, he did pose a credible threat, and it was actually difficult for the team to beat him. And I like that the team needed each other. I mean, this was essential to the Justice League in that you got all these different characters, and even though some of them are kind of clashing a little, they needed each other, and they all served a purpose in the team, and that was essential in getting this movie right. This movie really was the closest thing I've ever seen to a comic book come to life. There were so many moments, so many scenes in the film that I was imagining them as comic book panels. And look, it's not a big spoiler. We all know that Superman is going to come back, and yeah, I'm not going to say too much about it, but I love what they did with it. You know, it wasn't just like, boom, Superman's back, hey, let's go to work. Like, yeah, they did something really cool with the dynamics of the characters in that, and I loved it. And look, tonally, I thought the film was fine. You know, there was all this skepticism about, you know, if Joss Whedon was taking over from Zack Snyder, if he was going to maintain a similar tone, but yeah, it was fine. And not only that, look, there was half an hour cut out of this film. It was initially at least 2.5 hours, and they trimmed it down to 2, but I actually didn't think it was that bad. Like, it was still coherent. I'm sure it's going to be a much better film when we get to see the 2.5 hour version, but what we got was actually pretty good. There were some editing inconsistencies that, again, I'll address later, but look, yeah, overall, it was easy enough to follow. Probably would have liked a little bit more backstory with some of the characters, but yeah, it didn't feel that rushed to me. So yeah, look, while I really dug the film and I had such a good time watching it, yeah, it wasn't perfect. For starters, it just suffered from that same thing that nearly every comic book movie suffers from, in that the villain wasn't that effective. Sure, he was cool, and you know, for the most part he looked good. There were a couple of moments where the CG looked a little awkward, but you know, he was meant to be posing this global threat, but you never really got a sense of that. You never really saw much more than the Justice League and the bad guys in this film. Particularly towards the end, there's a scene in this Russian village where he's basically, you know, starting his big world domination from. But you only ever saw one family. You never really, until, you know, the whole town's fleeing, but it always focused on this one family, and it was a bit weird. And, you know, even scenes like the return of Superman and stuff, it would have been cool to kind of have more of society involved in it, you know, more background extras and things like that. But yeah, you just never really got a sense of a global threat. For the most part, the CG was good. Like I said, Steppenwolf in a couple of moments didn't look quite right, and you know, there's this thing where Henry Cavill had his mustache digitally removed because he had to grow a mustache because he was filming Mission Impossible 6 at the same time they were doing reshoots for this film. And yeah, there were just some moments where his mouth didn't move quite right, and it looked a little awkward, but look, you know, it's a nitpick. And yeah, there were a couple of editing issues which were possibly because they had to cut half an hour out of the film, which is a lot. Particularly a scene where they're fighting Steppenwolf and they knock him into this other area, and all of a sudden Aquaman is there fighting him, and so like, well, hang on, how did you get there? But it's hard to be too critical on this film because it was so much fun. There were so many bits of dialogue that I adored, particularly from The Flash, including one bit which cat lovers are really gonna love. It's got something to do with Tommy, so yeah, it was great. So look guys, if you're after just an entertaining, good time at the movies, you're not going to go wrong with this film. Sure, it didn't have a lot of substance to it in the way that, say, Captain America the Winter Soldier did, in as much as going deep into the characters and stuff, but you know, what we got was great. This movie was just meant to be an entertaining action film, and it delivered. So it's kind of hard to be too judgmental on a film that actually achieves what it sets out to do. I'm definitely going to be seeing it again. I'm definitely going to be adding it to the Blu-ray collection in whatever super duper mega director's cut box set with stuff in it. Just shut up and take my money. And despite its flaws, I had a really good time with Justice League, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch my review of Justice League. I hope you like my new set. I've actually got an entire room right now dedicated to my movie set, so yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. I can even leave my camera and light set up here and do reviews at 2 in the morning if I feel like it. Previously I actually had to set the camera and the light up and do my thing, get my focus right, take everything away afterwards. It was a chore, but that's all in the past. So over to you. If you guys have seen Justice League, I'd love to know what you thought of it. Did you like it as much as I did? What were some of your favorite moments and some of your favorite characters in the film? So drop me some comments either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are in the description below because I like to talk about movies and I would love to talk about movies with you. I'll catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.